Now let me ask you something. We got the frame, but did we hold on to it? Did we hold on to it?
No.
No, we didn't hold on to it. There's no way for us to now reduce the scope and say, okay, frame, get me TRs, or frame, get me the document, right? We can't because it kind of flew out into space. So what would be a logical thing for us to do in order for us to hold on to it?
Assign a variable?
Yeah, assign it to a variable. Now, we can't use frame because that's a reserved word. So, what do you want to call it? Inner frame, document, you can't say document either. FR, you just can't use frame. You can say FRM, just no frame. It's a reserved word. So let's say FRM, okay? So press the up key and then scroll all the way to the left and say FRM equals. FRM equals. And now you have FRM. Now you have FRM. Now every time you say FRM, you're talking specifically about the frame. Here's the problem. We are still in the first document. We have a tag that is frame from the first document, but we actually need to do something special that only a frame knows how to do in order to retrieve the inner document. You can't just keep saying, oh, frame, get me the TR. Frame doesn't know about the document inside. It's just a container. But it knows how to get it out. Can you guys go to your reference? Go to the frame object in your reference. Remember the reference we opened earlier on the web page? Go to the frame object, and on that web page, figure out what you need to do to that frame in order to retrieve the document inside the frame. I'm going to give you like 2 minutes because it's like one of the top things on the page. And then after that, we'll do it together. Did everybody understand what I'm asking you to do? The reference from the PowerPoint, the one we opened together, this guy, you are going to go here and you're going to find the frame object. On the left side, you can click the frame object. So over here, you see frame? You're going to click on that page and you're going to start reading. And somewhere near the top, not all the way on the bottom, but near the top, so you don't have to read too long, there's going to be something that will let you retrieve a document from a frame. Pull it out. Okay, while everyone's doing that, anybody needs help?
Is it a content document?
To get the document out?
Content document.
Content document, good. So we're going to switch back to Orange HRM, and then we're going to say what? FRM, right? That's where we stored our frame. Dot get content. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, not get. Content. It's not letting me do it. There we go. Content document. Right there. Not cooperating. Did it work? Did it work? Did it work? Did it work? I don't think it worked. Sorry guys, because I have such a small window, I can't even say if something worked or not. So. Anybody see anything?
No.
Okay, something's wrong.
What's not pictures?
Is this working for anybody except me? Okay, good.
Why is the document related one essential control?
Yeah, that's fine. As long as you see the word document, it's fine. As long as it's not empty, in fact, it's fine. Why isn't it working? Okay, I don't know what's up with my thing, but it's not cooperating, so bear with me. By the way, if something happens to your Firebug and it's just stuck, and you, I don't know, it's doing something funky, either not returning things or throwing errors, what you have to do is refresh the page. Unfortunately, when you refresh the page, it forgets every variable you stored beforehand, so you're going to have to go through all the motions. So it's a good idea to back up your code into a notepad, like copy things over, so that if you have to refresh, you're kind of, you know.
Thanks for letting us know.
And there's no way to use like persist or something to store it?
There we go. So that's what just happened to mine. I had to refresh, and as you can see, I had to rerun everything. Now, if you see the word document in green, okay, again, same question. We had a hold on the frame. We got the document out, and now we have no hold on that document. What would be a good thing to do in order for us to maintain hold on the document?
Declare a variable.
Yes, go ahead. I'm calling mine doc. Very complex name, DOC, doc. You can't use the word document because it's a reserved word. So pick something that resembles document but is not document. Again, remember, if you press the up key, it remembers what you typed last. Okay, now that we have the right document, what did we originally intend to do? Before we started down this journey, what did we want to do? What did we try to select we weren't able to?
The document within the frame. Actually,
first we were trying to select what? All the rows. Huh? All the rows. And the rows are TR. So now that we have the correct document, why don't we try the same experiment, but instead of document, we're going to say doc. Right? You guys remember? So that's what we said originally, but instead of document, we're going to say doc. And because I know I'm going to want to hold on this later, I'm going to store it immediately into a variable called rows. Because there's going to be many of them. Rows equals doc.getElements by tag name. Does everything make sense to everybody so far?
So to declare the variable,
does that make sense? Huh?
So to declare the variable, you don't need to type a variable.
No, you don't have to say var. All right, so we created doc. We created doc. And now we're saying doc, get me all the elements that have the tag name tr. And tr stands for rows. So we're saying doc, give me all your rows, right? Okay. What are we going to get?
Rows.
One thing or many things?
Many things.
We're going to get an array of many things. Technically, we're going to get one array of many things. All right, so let's run it. Let's run it.
The capitalization in a sentence.
Yay, I got many things. Right? Many things is good. Now, I have an array, and I need to figure out which index in the array to actually try to get the table data out of. Right? How do I do that? Well, remember how you can actually put your mouse over the tag and it will highlight it? I'm interested in this row, this one, where Bill Will is, right? Is that the one I'm interested in? Bill Will? So I'm going to put my mouse over this. Okay, wrong, wrong, still wrong, still wrong. Keep on going. This guy. And I'm going to count. How am I going to count? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody agrees? 5. Good. So I want to get the TR that is number 5.
It actually shows it there.
Huh?
It shows it there, TR5.
Right. That's true. Okay, so how do I do that? Let's switch back to console. And I have my rows, and I want to get the 5th row out. And and I want to store it. So I'm going to say a row. Before I had rows, right? Now I'm going to only have one, because I'm going to get one out of the array. So I'm going to say row equals rows. And how do I get the fifth one out? What do I put? Square brackets, right? Square brackets, 5. I'm going to say enter. Did I get what I wanted? How do I check that I got what I want? How do I check that it's the right one? I put my mouse over it, and if the right row gets highlighted, that means I counted correctly. This is the right one. All right, I have the correct row. What's my next step? You guys told me I need to get the rows. I got the rows, and I got the right row. What's next?
Go to the right cell.
Give the right item.
Go to the right cell. All right, how can I do that? My cell has no name and no ID. It has a tag.
Get the area.
So I have a row. What do I say? Row dot There's only 3 choices.
Get elements. Get IDs.
Tag name. Good. Okay. Again, the major hint here is that there is no ID on our table data and there is no name. So that means our only choice is tag name. Okay. So we're gonna say row dot get elements by tag name. And what's the tag name? TD. All right. And once we do this, we want to store it into a variable called
Final result.
cells, because there's going to be many of them. Cells. I said 35 minutes. You're not up to 35 minutes yet. So it takes a while. We're about halfway there. Yeah, there's surprises up ahead. All right, so everybody understands what we're doing? All right, let's do it. Type it in.
Is there square brackets or?
What's that word?
Oh.
I have bad news for you. I have to refresh so that I forget everything. So you're going to have to do the whole upper
saved it.
habit. See? So that means you refresh your page, just your page for the browser, and then you can copy all the previous stuff, paste it in exactly like that.
No.
It should. Don't scare me.
Yeah, give me error.
Well, that's okay. This is previous. Did you refresh the whole page? Yeah, okay, refreshing. Okay, good, sort of.
Error on all 3? Same time or just by one?
No, you can do all 3. Let me just check it. Where's your FRM? Frame. Where's your FRM? Yeah. FRM equals no dot. Equals document dot get element by ID. That's a comma. That's okay. Get elemented by ID. And ID is going to be by ID. And it's going to be right menu. Right is all lowercase, M is capitalized, M in double quotes. Yep. Okay, did everybody get this far? Let me rephrase. Who did not get this far? Oh, awesome. Oh, no. Okay, why, what's going on?
I just refreshed it.
You know, it says the row is not defined. Oh, you just refreshed it.
Right name?
Yeah, that means it's forgot everything. So let me catch you up real fast, okay?
Right? One word. Everything What's your say no? Is that right minus plus say no?
You did not see that.
Third one. So the name is actually.
Okay. You guys are also stuck? Okay, before I go help people, same thing as last time. You have 7 things. You need 1 thing. How do you figure out which one and how do you get it out? Into a variable called cell. That's a big hint. 1. To cell. Do it. Don't say it. Do it.
Same thing.
And then verify that you did the right one by doing the whole mouse thing. Okay, cell equals cells 2. How do I verify my result? I point over TD and it should highlight if you actually have it on the screen. Like that. But my goal is to retrieve the actual name. And I don't have the name yet. I have TD, but how do I actually look inside the TD to get the name out? Where is the name actually contained? Inside a link, right? You guys remember?
Yes.
So how do I get the link out of the TD?
You say TD equals.
You say, sure. What do you say? You say something.
Link equals.
I'm trying to get a link out of a TD. What do I do? What do I already have? I have my cell. Cell dot. Come on, you guys. We did it at least 3 times already. Cell dot.
Get
Element or elements. Elements by tag name. What's the tag? A. How many things am I going to get back?
No many.
I'm going to get an array. Regardless of how many things are inside, I'm going to get an array. And if I want to get that only one thing inside that array out, what do I put?
0.
So can we combine the 2 steps of getting an array and getting a thing out of the array into one? Can we combine it?
Yes.
Let's see what it looks like. We're going to say link equals, and we're going to say cell dot get elements by tag name. We're going to pass in our tag, just like we did before, right? So far, everything looks familiar? But I want to, in the same step, get the link out. How do I, in the same step, get the link out? I don't even have to say dot. I can just put square brackets immediately afterwards and say 0. Because essentially, it's an equivalence, right? So this side equals that, right? So that means that my object, link, I can use the same way as I would do this, right? Just square brackets. So as soon as I say enter, I get my link, and it does look like a link. It says href, it has all that stuff about my link. But, what's the problem? Where's Will? Do you see Will anywhere inside my A?
No.
Are there any tags inside my A?
There's
Are
a
there any
target.
children? Are there any children?
Target.
No, that's an attribute. That's an attribute. Are there any sub tags? Are there any children tags that A has?
No.
How do I find out?
So, has child names.
Good. So let's do that. Link dot has what? Child nodes, right? And I say enter. Oops. Wait, what? Oh, I didn't put parentheses. Sorry, guys. Child node. There we go. It says, yeah, it has children. So I don't see any children, but it says, yes, I do have some children. There is a way to get children out. I can just actually say link dot,
Child name.
and guess what? Guess what it says? first child. You see that? So I can actually say get first child, and I can say enter. Oh, that looks kind of promising, don't you think? So what happened? How come I looked with my Firebug and I found my link and I didn't see any children? But when I asked it, it says I have children. What happened?
It's hidden.
It's actually called a text node. It's a node, but it's not a tag node. It's a text node. A text node doesn't have tags around it. It's just the embedded text of two opening and closing tags. Make sense? So it's kind of like illegitimate child. It's the child that exists, but nobody really talks about it. It's kind of like, yeah, yeah. It's that child, okay? So this is when if you want to find out if something has child nodes, right? Even though you don't see with your eyes, you still check, and it's going to tell you. It's going to say, yeah, I have children. And if it has children, you can get first child. You can also get last child. It doesn't matter. If there's only one child, well, you can get that child, whether first or last. So we get our text node. Okay? Text node. Now, how do we get the value of the text node? Link that first child dot. Is there anything here that we can use? I forget if it's get.
Get user data.
I'm sorry, it's node value. There we go. So it's text node, and we want to get the value of that node. And it's a text node, so the only value a text node can have is the text, right? It's a text node. Yeah. So link that first child, that node value. Now you can always save this to a variable, right? You can always say link that first child equals text, right? And you can say text.node value. So you can actually break it up, but we're combining it now, right? Okay, so I see Bill will, but I also see a lot of white space. Do you guys understand the concept of what white space means? A white space is a combination of spaces and tabs and new lines and carriage returns and anything else you can think of, right? Is there something that can help me get rid of it in one swoop?
Remove.
Trim. Trim. Trim is specifically designed to remove white space. So what you're going to do is the same thing that you already typed, and then you're going to attach dot, and look, it already highlights it for you. It already knows what you want. Trim. You're going to say enter. Oops, it's a function. My bad. Trim. And now you get the nice Bill will. Bill. You guys see that? So all this pain, right? Why would you ever use this in your ID? Well, you can do it in one step. We actually took many steps, but just like we did at the very end where we combined several steps. You guys see that? We could have actually combined all of these guys. Now, it usually takes me a while to put this together, but I have already a backup, so let me just log into my backup. And you guys can actually see that I already have the notes posted for you. Oh, sorry, wrong one. No, go back. DOM notes. So everything we did today in class is in DOM notes. And on the very bottom, you can see is I can simply say name.
Oh my gosh.
You don't need to type it. It's already uploaded. You can play with it at home. So the only thing here, though, is that instead of getting the second one, I have to get the fifth TD. I'm sorry, no, I get the fifth PR. My bad. See? One step, you get the same value. You see that? So this is what DOM looks like.
Nice.
Now, it might be a little bit too much. It looks like a little bit too much. But remember, DOM lets you do all that other stuff like get ID or get, children. So like if you can get some variable, but you can't for some reason select something that's under it, you can say
get children. And then you can say, get me the third child, right? Or you can narrow down to certain element you can select and say, well, now inside this element, get me everything with a certain tag. So there's a way to kind of lower scope. It's for those situations where something is just not selecting using XPath, it has no name or ID.
When it says link first child,
Hold
so
on,
you
hold on.
just,
Let's know which child is the one where.
Well, it's the same thing, right?
Oh,
We're
and then-
experimenting, right?
Oh,
Right, so you can actually highlight. You can also use Firebug. Remember that technically children are tags most of the time, except for this one special case of the node, the text node.
We're doing this.
It's in day 5, down
so,
nodes.
okay, I see. So it's
Down
not-
node 60.
when you need third child, so instead of first, you just put third.
Okay, third child is technically index 2. So be careful. Remember? Because it's giving you this thing as an array. Oh, you mean for this one?
Yeah.
No, unfortunately, there's only first child and last child.
But
There's
you put the
actually
third
a
child.
function that says child nodes. So you can say, remember, you can say has child nodes and give you true or false, and then you can say child nodes, and it will actually give you the whole array. It's actually part of the PowerPoint. So they go together. Remember how I said you can ask and then retrieve all of them? So it'll
No, I
actually
understand
give
you
you,
can retrieve them.
it will actually give you an array. So you can say then from the array you can say get me the third one.
So you can basically say link
You can say exactly.
has child in brackets.
No, you would
Link.
literally say link dot child nodes, or is it get child nodes? You guys. Hold on. My bad. Child nodes. Yes. No, I'm right. Child nodes.
And then you put 3 inside of bracket.
Yeah, and then you put yes,
Whatever the child is.
yes, yes. Okay. I'm not even gonna say the next thing. Basically, just remember this, that we covered it so that it makes sense than day 10 what we're doing, okay? So like you're not really gonna be utilizing this too much in the next 5 weeks, but this was the only logical place to stick it. So kind of, whatever, let's move on. Okay, next part of this class is, I think, a little bit more exciting. A tiny bit more exciting. Okay, so Selenium user extensions. Who remembers what user extensions are?
Two.
Maybe. Is there a different definition you can give that's a little more like specific? What are user extensions? Well, they're definitely something done by a user. What are they extending?
The functionality,
The functionality of
the browser.
the browser?
Language.
The ID, right? The ID, the core. The Selenium core that's embedded into the IDE. Okay. So it's user-implemented functionality for Selenium, in this case IDE. It's done with JavaScript. It's accomplished by adding methods to the Selenium object prototype and PageBot. Okay, so there's two things that you need to add, register your new stuff with in order to get new commands. Now, I'm not going to scare any of you off. We're not actually going to be typing JavaScript, that whole huge document. We're just going to be looking at it and pasting it in. Okay? So don't get weirded out. What happens is, on startup, that means when we open Selenium IDE, it's going to go and see are there any JavaScript files attached. And if it finds any JavaScript files attached, it's going to load them and display them in the command field. Okay? That means that when we attach something new to IDE, we have to shut it down and then bring it back up. Does that make sense to everybody? Just like in Firefox, when you install an add-on, you have to shut it down and bring it back up. Same thing. So here's how it works. If you want to create an action for yourself, a new action, like click
but instead of maybe type, you want to say type all caps, right? You would actually say do, and that will let your Selenium PageBot and prototype know that you actually mean an action. So in this case, I'm doing the do mouse over or do type all caps. So I want to type all caps, but I'm going to put do in front of it so that it knows that it's an action. And because it knows it's an action, it's going to automatically also create do whatever action and wait. Make sense? So I don't have to myself create the end wait command. That command will be created for me automatically. Action method can take up to 2 parameters. You decide. But it cannot take 3. It cannot take, it has to take as many columns as there are. So maximum 2.
What if you
So
put
how
or?
will, go ahead. So how will ID knows what is do mouse over do?
What do you mean?
Let's say, for example, we know what with the humans we know what the do mouse over does. But
You
how,
would put the code. It's your code.
oh,
It's not just magic. You say my function is going to be called do type all caps. You're going to say this is what it does, and then you're going to say prototype. I want to register with you this new function I created. It's in the same document that I'm attaching.
and this is the code for this function.
Yes,
Oh.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, very good. Good clarification. Okay, accessors. What are accessors?
Accessors.
Store text, right? Verify text. So anytime we're actually going to the page and retrieving a value, not just performing an action, but retrieving some kind of value, to either verify or assert it or store it or do anything with it, it's an accessor. So to create an accessor, you're either going to prepend get or prepend is to your command name. So get all caps, right? Or is all caps. Make sense? So in this case, if you have is, it's going to be a Boolean. Boolean means true or false. So you're verifying that it's either true or it's false. So for example, you have some text and you want to verify that it's in all capitals. You would say is all caps, right? And then you would pass in the locator of that text. And if that text is not all caps, it would return false. So that means your assertion will fail, for example. Make sense? Now, if you want to create something that allows you to actually retrieve a value, not just to tell you it's right or wrong, but to retrieve it, then you would say get. So technically, store value command, in order to create it, the person actually said get value. And Selenium converted it to store value. Does that make sense to everybody? It especially becomes obvious when we're going to switch to Java, because everything that you remember about store, it's actually no longer store, it's just get. All of them are going to be get, get, get. And then you assign it to a variable manually. Make sense? So, in addition to your command, that's going to be transformed from get to store, or from is to a Boolean, it's also going to add assert, assert not, verify, verify not, wait for, and wait for not commands for free. You don't have to write them. It sees your code and it says, ooh, I'm going to add additional X number of things just for your usability pleasure. Make sense?
So it's gonna. Can you explain a little bit more? So it's gonna get all this.
So
and it's gonna
verify text and verify not text and wait for text and wait not text are actually all the same command. So all those things in the dropdown that you were working with, like when you said wait for text, and another time you were saying verify text, and a different time you said store text, the whole 3 times you were saying get text. And then you were just doing different things around that code. That Selenium already knows how to do. But what was being called is just a single function, always the same function, get text. Make sense? So the point is, creating commands is a lot easier than it might look.
So does it happen a lot in a Java environment that people develop their own?
Actually, there's a lot of extensions out there. Like
I don't think I've ran across anything so far that I thought I would want to have, and I wasn't able to Google and find the extension already existing. Like you can, even the extension we're using today, I simply Googled and found. Like there's a zillion of them out there. So you just look for Selenium IDE user extensions, and there's like sites where you select what you want. A zillion of them. There's a little problem with user extensions. You know what it is? When you export to a language, there is no template conversion for them. So it doesn't know how to convert your added functionality to a language, right? So you can't convert it to Java. You can't convert it to Python. It won't know. It will actually just comment it out for you and add it in, but it will not be converted. So anything that you do in user extension language is kind of lost. There is a way to actually append user extensions to remote control. So you can actually add your JavaScript to remote control. There's really, I don't want to say it, I've never tried it, but I haven't really heard of a way to append the user extension to WebDriver. There might be a way, but I haven't seen an example. So if you really want that user extension, get it, but be aware that once you go to any language, you will have to code it in your language yourself. Does this make sense? Yeah, to everybody? Okay. Assertions. Now, the difference between accessors and assertions is that you might not want to store a variable. You just want to say, is it true or is it false? Okay, whatever. Just, it's either working or it's not working. So if you just want the assertions, so you don't want all those wait fors and stores and whatnot, you can actually say assert. And if you say assert, the only thing it's going to do is it's going to add verify for you. So if you say assert all caps, it's going to add verify all caps for you. It's also going to add wait for. That's the only two it's going to add. Okay? Instead of dealing with all this other stuff over here. So if you just want the verify and the wait for, do assert. Okay, so how do you create a user extension? Blah, blah, blah. Ignoring this slide. You're going to go to, not here. I used to have everybody go to this link and copy it. I just posted it on my website now. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to go to day 5. Oops, day 5 over here. And you're going to find a file, go to cell.ide.js. You see that? You're going to right-click on it. Right-click. Not left-click, right-click on it. And you're going to say save link as. Everybody sees that? Now the most important part is to remember where you store it. Okay? So you're going to not change the name. You're not going to change anything. It's going to save everything as supposed to save it. But you do need to remember where. Okay? So some of the best locations are either C drive or desktop. Okay? Pick one. Some computers won't let you save on desktop. Some computers won't let you save on C drive. So just pick a location you can remember. I like my desktop, so I'm going to put it on my desktop.
Sorry, what are we setting? What link?
1 second. So after you select desktop, just click save. Don't change the file type. Don't change the name. Just save. That's it. All right, one more time. You go to day 5. You find go to Selenium IDE.js file. It's this guy. 3.2 kilobytes. Very small. You right-click on it, just like that, and you say save link as. Okay? So one more time. This guy. Right-click. Save link as.
So what if I open it and save as?
If it works for you, good. Sometimes when you copy and paste, or when you try to do different ways, like download the file, for some reason it gets corrupted. It's like it gets weird stuff in it. It's pieces of
You're supposed to
HTML.
open in ID?
You can attach it to ID, but not open it in ID. You attach it to ID. Okay, so while everybody is saving it, I'm
So did
going
you
to
say
show
there's
you what's
two-
inside.
Yeah.
Okay, it gets corrupt.
Sorry guys, I've been coughing and sneezing all day.
Do we open it after saving? Or
Nope, you just
Just save?
save it and stare at me for a while. So let's take a look at what's inside. I'll open it, you don't open it. Just, we're gonna take a look together. This is JavaScript, okay? JavaScript, I know it's JavaScript because it has this whole var business going on, right? Now, what are some of the things we definitely recognize here? Prototype, right? Remember I said you have to register something with prototype? What's definitely doing something with prototype is saying Selenium prototype.reset function, right? And it's saying, I want you to add label, I want you to do the whole window pop-up stuff. And it says Selenium prototype initialize label function gives the go-to label. Anyways, it does a whole bunch of stuff with prototype. Okay? That's what you have to basically figure out. Go-to label is one of the functions we're going to have. Another function that we're going to have is going to be, scroll this down. Yes. Do you see? Okay, yeah. So do while. What does do while mean? What is do?
Action.
Action, right. So do while is going to become while, right? It's going to remove the do. It's just going to get you the while. So it's going to be an action. And for every single action, we're also going to get a whole bunch of what? Additional commands that we didn't really write, but they're going to be added anyway. You guys remember that? All right. Another one is do endWhile. Do endWhile is going to become endWhile. Now endWhile, huh?
Can you make that bigger?
Yeah, maybe.
Control plus.
Where's my plus?
I wish
So
that-
do while is going to become end while. Do while basically stops the loop, right? Now, it sounds weird, but because it's an action, it's also going to again add a whole bunch of weird stuff, like do while, do end while and wait. Do end while not. Stuff like that. So weird things. So the point is sometimes prototype adds too much, even though, because it doesn't understand what the thing is, it just adds everything to it. Some of the stuff it's going to add is not going to be useful, okay? It's just going to sound weird. But it does it by default, so kind of bear with it. But at least you see that these things are going to get turned into commands, right? And this is how you register it. You basically say what the function is going to be, that it's a function, and then the code for the function. This is what the function does. For those of you that are curious, can spend some time at home, try to figure it out. But for now, what we're going to do is we're simply going to open Selenium ID. So open Selenium ID, and you're going to go to options. Actually, no, hold on. Can everybody go to their command line? So select the first line, and on the command line, type while. You type while. Do you have any suggestions being displayed to you in the command when you type while?
While for alert, while for alert, represented, present. Sure. Oh, it's wait, no?
Not wait, while, right? Nothing. Good. So that means there's no while exists right now. Good. Now we're going to go to options, and we're going to go to this first field, the first one. See the first one? And we're going to say browse. So Selenium core extension, not IDE extension. We don't want to extend how IDE looks. We want to extend the actual functionality, core. You're going to say browse, and you're going to find somewhere where you saved your thing. Go to cell IDE. You're going to find it, and you're going to open it.
Okay? I appear to have a corruption, so let me,
Do it in the extension JS.
yeah, the GS, everything. Mine is corrupted, so hold on.
Sorry. Okay, no, no. Ничего. Надо show. Но я не думаю, что мы не сохраним.
Why cancel? Alright, okay, sorry guys, I had a little snafu because my thing got corrupted, so.
Well, we don't know. We can accept your story.
Come on. Come on. My computer's not cooperating.
Forgot that GS. You can type that GS.
No, I can't find things.
You haven't seen it.
I did.
You have an
I
open.
already tried it 3
Go to
times.
downloader. Downloader below. You have that?
No.
Oh, you closed it.
Hold on. Doing something weird. It's canceling the download. Desktop, JavaScript. Save it. See, it says cancel.
No, you see you downloaded below?
Yeah, but it didn't actually download.
No, can you drag it to your desktop instead of saving it?
Я еще доискал, что вот, видимо, веб-сайт
No, something is up.
Can you save it from this page? Once you open it?
Usually this leads to problems as well.
Mine works.
It should work. Mine used to work before as well. I don't know what's going on.
У меня есть не сам. Только у тебя телефон. Да, тогда то, что сам стал, у тебя телефон. Пока еще нужно было на одном деле, потом уже заморочиться
Okay, can everybody shut down their IDE after they added the add-on and then reopen it? Again, do the same thing. Type in while. If now it shows the thing for you, that means you did everything correctly. If you get a warning message, that means something went
Do you have
wrong.
to click save or not?
Okay, you have to click OK.
No, when you close the ID. When you close the Selenium.
You
It
should
didn't ask me for any save.
delete the command.
Mine just
Don't
says
save,
okay.
it's just a while command.
Oh no, you don't need to save your open document. You don't need to save anything. Just the OK button on options. Whatever you have in this field doesn't matter. So you're just going to shut it down, and then you're going to open it up again. You don't have to shut down Firefox, just IDE. So when you open it up, select the first line and type in while. So now, when you type in while, you should get these two options.
While and wait, yes.
Okay? And when you type in go to, you should also get options. You guys see that? Do you guys now understand where while and go to came from? Remember? Okay, good. Okay, let's learn a little bit about while and go to. Alright, so this is what we have added using that extension. We have label, go to label, go to if, while, and endWhile. Those are the commands that we added. Now you will see a whole bunch of other stuff like endWhile and wait, or go to label, or verify go to label, like weird stuff like that. But the ones that we actually tried to add, intended to add, were these ones. The ones on this screen. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Label is just a starting point. It's basically a name for a specific line in your code. Okay? You can give it any name you want. Go to label is telling your code to jump to the line with the specified label. So if I'm going to label a single line apple and then I say go to apple, it's going to jump to the line that you labeled apple. Make sense? Now, this is a good way to comment out code. It's also a good way to create an infinite loop. Infinite loops are usually not good, so any good way to create one is usually bad. Label apple. Okay? Go to label apple. Echo hello. You're essentially commenting out this line, because as soon as you get to this line, you will skip here. Make sense? Now let's reverse these. Hello, 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 hello. Make sense? It's an infinite loop. Tiny little problem. The only way to shut this guy down is to go to Task Manager and actually kill the Firefox process. Don't do it.
Oh, it's a nice
It's a
practical joke.
infinite loop. Your IDE will go crazy on you. Yeah.
Isn't it just echo one? All my scripts it only works once.
Label apple. Hello. Go to apple.
Oh, I
Hello.
was trying, yeah.
Go to apple.
Can we try?
As long as it's not on my computer.
Oh, yeah, I mean,
As long as it's not on my computer.
No, you should use go to
Usually,
label and
anytime I
wait.
say something in class, it's the voice of experience talking. Means I've already tried it on my computer. Okay. Go to is the same thing as go to label. It's just a shortcut. Okay? Basically, the guy who wrote this extension got tired of typing in go to label, so he was like, okay, I'm just gonna call it go to now. Add a little redirect. Anytime somebody says go to, do the go to label thing. Make sense? So mostly you're not gonna see go to label used, it'll just go to. This is what it looks like. Alright, moving on. Go to if. Now that's one of those conditional if statements, right? Go to if. Label is the same. The purpose of label hasn't changed. But now we're not always going to go to the label. We're only going to go to that label if the condition is true. Right?
so that's kind of going to perform this go to until it reaches
Only
label.
if the condition is true. Yeah.
So if the label is apple, if it's a 255 line, it will go to that. And then it's
Yeah, it will. It doesn't matter where the label is. It goes there. So for example, x equals 10, y equals 14. Go to target 2. Go to if, right? Go to if target 2. So go to if y is more than x. Is y more than x? Is 14 more than 10? So is it going to go to target 2? Yes, it will. On the other hand, if y equals 9, will it go to target 2?
No.
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 What about if y equals 10 as well?
No.
No.
No, because it's not more than or equals 1. Good. And finally, we have our while loop, which we're going to be utilizing in our homework. Yay! Everyone's excited?
So no homework.
I lied.
Oh my God.
Okay, so here's what it looks like. You have your x, you have your y. X equals 10, y equals 14. You say while my x is less than or equals y, I want you to keep incrementing x. So I'm going to say x plus 1, store it back into x, right? I'm incrementing x, and I want you to print out x on the screen, right? Question. How many times will this loop run?
5. 4. No, it equals, right?
4, 5, 5, 4, 4, 5,
4.
12. Okay, so how many? 4 or 5?
4.
Why 4?
Because it equals. If it equals, it gets 14 and 5.
Okay, so when we actually equal 14, do we still run?
It says, yeah.
Yes, right? So 5, right? 5. 11, 12, 13, 14, right? So 10, 11, 12, 13. So the first time we run it's 10.
Yeah, it's right.
And then it's going to increment 11, 12, 13, 14.
Okay, 5.
Total of 5. Did I give it away? No, I didn't yet. Which numbers will be printed out on the screen?
14.
10, 11, 12.
Okay, let's rephrase. What is the largest number that will be printed out on the screen?
14, 4.
See, it's again this whole rule of 1. The whole thing, the one. I know it's not the area, but which one? Okay, who thinks 14 is the biggest number that will be printed out? Who thinks 15? Okay, good. The 15s have it. What is the smallest number that's going to get printed out on the screen? 11. 11. Why? Because even though we start out with 10, we increment before we print. Okay, good. So let's try to check our theory. Technically, you can actually just copy this code, but if you don't want to copy it because you can download the example from my site again. So if you want to download it, it's in the same directory and it's called go to example HTML. All right? So you can either download it or you can copy it from the PowerPoint and paste it into the table. Either way, here's what it looks like. 1 second.
What is the example?
This is what it looks like. When you run it, you're going to see some new colors. That's white. So it's kind of very hard to see here, but on your laptop or desktop or whatever, you're going to see better. But guess what? These 2 lines are white. These 2 lines are white. Why are they white? They were never executed, right? So they cannot color them green or red because they weren't ever executed. Now, this area, it ran several times. And I can actually see here on the bottom that you guys were correct. The 15s were correct. You have your 15 as your maximum number. And when I go all the way up,
I'm going to see 11 as my minimum. Here's my 11. So 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, that gives me 5 iterations. 11 is the min, 15 is the max. Make sense? Okay, let's discuss your homework.
Question.
Yes?
So why is it returns it shows us 50? Because the code says show us like change
No.
everything but
The code says keep running the loop while x is less than or equals to 14. But before we print, we increment x. So we're already in the loop when we increment x. So it's going to finish running. It's not going to abort in the middle just because x is incremented. It's already started. It only checks it at the beginning. So at the beginning, x is 14. Then we increment it and print it. And then when it's done, x is 15. So the next time it's not going to run. But at the beginning of the loop, it's 14, so it's still valid. No problem. Okay, now just to let you know that this code does work, it didn't skip it because it's not valid code. It does work. If you double click on any one of these, it actually does pop up. Right? So just because you didn't see these alerts, it should tell you that the code works correctly. The only one you should see is this guy. So when you run it, all you see is the last one. Okay, let's discuss your homework. Okay, your homework has several purposes, as always. And it's important that you understand the purpose of your homework. Whenever you start a job, yes, you're going to spend a portion of your time writing new code, new tests. You're also going to spend a large portion of your time maintaining somebody else's code, probably the person who left right before you came, so they can explain stuff to you. And there's probably no nice comments on the code anyway. So you're going to be looking at somebody else's code, trying to figure out what it does, and then changing it. Not completely writing your own. You're going to be changing somebody else's code. So we're going to demo that same kind of situation by you copying my HTML code. It's easier for you guys because we already went over it in class. So it's going to be kind of like, well, it looks familiar. But the point is, I don't want you to record from scratch. I want you actually to take code that you already had and modify it. Does that make sense? So you have your search.html. I want you to download it. And I want you to do the following things. I want you to modify it. By the way, who remembers what search.html does? You guys remember? It was the first day you guys were here. And we searched for not CO, not staff, not CFO, all that stuff. Well, this time, I actually want you to verify that all the rows that got returned contain manager. Not the first one. All the rows contain manager. Does that sound like a loop to anybody?
Yes.
First row,
No.
not manager. First row, manager. Second row, manager. Third row, manager. So there's going to be something happening in that loop that causes you to constantly switch rows, right? There's also something you're going to have to do. To figure out how many rows you have. Okay? Basically, you're going to have to figure out what is the X path to a row, right? So that you can ask this thing, how many of those do you have, right? And then that you're going to use to actually run your loop, okay? Now, even though this loop is called a while loop, it's technically going to be used like a for loop in your case, because you're going to know how many times. Okay, you're going to run it until. So that's your homework. It is easy in terms of recording. It's not so easy in terms of modifying and debugging. So do it in small portions, okay? That's the homework. Okay, yay, cool. All right. Additionally, I gave last week the advanced homework assignment. Did anybody try it? Advanced? Of course not. So what I'm going to do in the last half an hour is probably going to take less than that, so you guys can go home a little early. Because I'm actually going to go over that and going to give you a new advanced homework assignment, which I'm not going to explain until week 7. So you're going to have 2 weeks to do it.
the new advanced homework assignment will actually also involve loops. And you will have to input 3-digit numbers to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, just like we did in class last week. But this time, instead of typing them in, you're going to be clicking them in. So you're going to be clicking buttons and then trying to store what number was created, right? So instead, before you were like, oh, okay, I clicked 3, that means I store 3. But now you're going to have to figure out how does 356 become the first input? How does 792 become the second input, right? So I'm going to go over the advanced calculator today, but there's a new, more advanced calculator due in 2 weeks that you guys can try. I'm going to demo, but you can try, okay? So if you want to go home, you technically can, as long as you sign into that sheet that might have not come around. But if you do want to stay, you can stay, okay? So go or stay, up to you.
You dropped
Это прозвучало как одолжение.
Ты задал вопрос.
Okay. So most of this code should look familiar because we did it in class. You guys remember? Think a week back? So this part should look familiar. So is this part. They're not the efficient ones that we did in class. We did one that's this way, one the efficient way, right? But these two are the same. So these two I'm not going to explain. It's the middle one and the bottom one that are going to be the ones that cause this assignment to be more advanced. So before we were only using addition, right? Don't squint. I'm going to copy this into Notepad. Okay? So before we were only doing addition. So over here, instead of clicking weird something, we were just always doing cal plus. Okay? So this assignment was designed so that instead of just doing plus, you would actually randomly choosing plus, minus, divide, or multiply. Right? Now because we are now randomly choosing divide, multiply, add, subtract, we also had to figure out how to calculate the result correctly, because the result calculation wasn't as simple as num1 plus num2. It was now num1 something num2, right? And the problem is that even though when you click a number button, it's cal followed by number, right? So you could figure out the number pretty easily. But cal div has no divide in it, right? It's a word. So is cal plus. It has no plus sign in it. It's a word. So how do you convert from a word to an icon, right? So this is what we did for the first part, or rather, I did for the first part, I guess, in this case. Well, the first part should make sense, right? JavaScript. I'm using JavaScript around my code because I'm actually selecting something and storing something as part of a command, click, right? So if I'm doing something as part of a command and I'm not using store eval or verify eval or assert eval or star anything eval, that means I have to put JavaScript curly brackets around the code, right? You guys remember that part? Okay. The rest of this, let's take a quick look at. So the first part should make sense. I have my 4 locators for the 4 buttons. How did I get these locators? You can either use Firebug and click on one of those buttons and figure it out, or you can use the Selenium ID and click on those 4 buttons, and again, it's going to tell you. So that's how I got them, and I split them into my array called button. I still do exactly the same thing with this guy. I'm basically, just like before we selected a random number, I'm still going to be saying map.random button.length. So I'm still choosing between 0 and, in this case, 3, right? So the length is 4, but I'm going to be flooring it. So it's going to be between 0 and 3, right? So I only have 4 options. But I'm actually going to be retrieving the stuff out of the button and storing it into XPath in one step. Make sense? You guys remember that? We can actually combine that step, right? We can choose the random number and retrieve the actual value immediately. The value is going to represent the XPath, which is basically what I'm going to be clicking. That's what I'm choosing. I'm going to be clicking, right? And I'm also going to store it for later use as my operator. So actually, I'm not doing anything funky here. I'm storing my XPath and clicking it. That's it. Right? Sort of? Okay. So that part was a no-brainer. Okay, I chose a random thing just like I chose a button. But instead of storing a number, I store the whole XPath, the whole string. Whoa. Here. I have no idea what I'm doing with this. It's not letting me do it. Okay, you know what? Whatever. You tell me how to do it. If you have certain string, you don't know the value of it, right? You know that it exists, and you know the value could only be one of 4 choices. What is the mechanism you know of that can let you decide what is the right choice actually inside that variable? So let me rephrase. Somebody gave you some envelope. You don't know what's inside it, but you know it is one of 4 colors. Okay? Inside this envelope. In fact, it's a piece of paper, one of 4 colors. And you had to guess what color it is. And you can ask the person who gave you the envelope. What would you say to the person?
What are
Is
the 4
it-
colors? Your favorite?
It doesn't matter. Let's say blue, yellow, red, and green. There's only 4 colors it could be. And the person is standing right in front of you with the envelope. You can ask them before you open it. You have to guess before. You can ask them. So what would you say? Is it blue? No. Is it green? No. Is it red? No. So then it's yellow. Okay, good. So you don't have to ask about the last one, right? Does that sound like a mechanism we already know?
Loop?
It's not a loop.
If?
If it's red, no. Else if it's green, no. Else if it's blue, no. Right? You guys see what I'm talking about? So we have this variable. We know there's a string in there, and it's only one of 4 values. So we're going to say if
It's true.
operator is what? CalDiv num1 divided by num2 equals result, right? So on and so forth. So that's what this thing looks like. I don't want to clean it up. That's why I wanted you guys to answer it, but
Huh?
okay. So does this look sort of like what we just discussed?
What was that?
Does this sort of look like what we just discussed? So you basically have your, this This is the bottom part, right? This is where we're trying to calculate the result, so we can verify it against what's inside the calculator output field. So we already know the operator. We know that we have an operator, right? We stored it. We know what num1 is, and we know what num2 is. We don't have to convert them. They're already in the good format. The only thing we have to figure out is what does operator represent, right? So we're gonna say if operator looks like this, then the result will be calculated using this sign, right? And then we're gonna say, all right, maybe not. If operator looks like this, so that means if what we stored looks like this string, then use this sign, right? If what we stored looks like this, and notice how I keep saying equals equals, right? Equals this, then use that sign. And the last part, we don't even have to put anything because, well, we only chose one of those four. We could have chosen anything else. So let's just divide. And then all you do is return the result. Right? That's it. That was the hard part. And then, you know, the verification looks the same as what we did in class. Yes? No? The solution is posted, so... The solution is posted. So at least when you go home, you can take a look at it, compare it to what we did in class, and see how it didn't change much. It's just, instead of always saying result equals num1 plus num2, we now have 3 additional if-else conditions. And you go home and do your homework.
Right away.